We hear this around the shop all the time. Almost every single day, somebody comes in and says, I really like my system, but I'm ready for an upgrade. What should I upgrade first? And just like everything else in the stereo world, this can be really confusing as you'll hear a lot of different responses as to what's important, what you should prioritize with your upgrade. And most of the time I just ask the customer, what are you trying to achieve? Are you looking for sonic improvements? Are you looking for a status upgrade? Or do you just want something new? And like everything else with stereo equipment, there's no wrong answer to that. I've split these upgrades into 3 categories. What you should expect the least sonic improvements from, where you should get a decent or a good amount of sound improvement, and then what upgrades I think are absolutely game changers. These are the fun ones. And then later, I'll share some stories we've seen over the years of some extreme bottlenecking. You don't want to do this. These are situations where one bad link in the chain causes the entire stereo system to sound terrible. I've seen it several times. Let's get into it. It's going to be fun. Who doesn't love a good upgrade? To a lot of us, it's our favorite thing ever. And while I do think every single piece of your stereo equipment is important, some things I buy are not for better sound. Sometimes they're either for just reliability and even looks alone. And while a lot of people will claim they can hear a significant difference with speaker cables, RCA cables, interconnects, I have yet to experience this. For me, I am just looking for a good, reliable cable, the right cable for the job, a good, snug fit, and it's the same with speaker wire. I definitely don't recommend going budget in this category, but I don't think you need to spend a ton of money, and I wouldn't expect huge improvements in sound. There's a reason why you don't see A/B comparisons with cables at audio trade shows or really anywhere else. If there's a difference, it's subtle, at least in my opinion. And I don't think improving sound quality is the job of a cable. The job of a cable that I pick out, send the signal from one piece of equipment to the other with the least amount of interference, the least amount of noise, and be reliable. That's it. That's the goal of cables and speaker wire for me. And another piece of equipment in this category I don't think a lot of people think about is furniture, especially with turntables. You need something that does a really good job of isolating those outside frequencies coming from your speakers. And I do think with turntables, this absolutely can improve the sound, because if those low frequencies are making their way to your turntable, you're getting a lot of rumble. Getting rid of those unwanted low frequencies will definitely improve the sound. And we get asked quite a bit about platter mats and record weights. How much of an improvement is there? Should I go with cork, acrylic, felt? Do record weights actually do anything? Do they straighten out warped records? And while I think there's something to be said for a really cool looking slip mat or a record weight, I wouldn't look at either of them as really solving any great issues or improving the sound. With an acrylic platter mat and its anti-static properties, that can be really beneficial, especially for us here in the Midwest where static energy is definitely an issue in the winter. And with record weights, I just think they look cool. I've never heard of sonic improvement when using a record weight or not using a record weight, but if you can, I believe you. And I think this is the category where we see most people being kind of disappointed, including myself, when making an upgrade here and expecting game-changing results. And there's quite a few in this category, so I'm going to move pretty quickly through it. You don't want to skimp here, but I do think there's more lateral movements in this category, even when spending quite a bit more money. And with these, I don't know if it's because I don't hear that big of a difference between them, or if it's because it's the format that I'm just not really passionate about. But I just don't hear a radical difference when jumping back and forth between these devices. I mean, some I've liked more than others, but to really say that one is better than that one, or that one sounds astronomically better than that one, I haven't experienced that yet. To me, the differences are pretty subtle. And I've included amplifiers and receivers in this category. Yes, I can hear some subtle nuanced differences. I'm not even sure if I have my favorite sounding receiver or amplifier. Each one might have its own colorization, maybe a little less low end or a little bit brighter, But as long as it has treble controls, usually I can dial in an amplifier or a receiver and get it to where I like it. So for me, I've experienced a lot more subtle upgrades with receivers and amplifiers. And the same with turntables. If a turntable's playing correctly, it's running at the right speed, it's got good isolation to where I'm not getting rumble or interference from other frequencies, vibrations inside the room, to me, the only thing that makes a sonic difference is the cartridge. And then lastly in this category, I have speaker stands. And it might seem silly to some people, but given the speaker, decoupling it from the floor, getting that tweeter to ear height can make a pretty significant improvement. I almost put this in the next category with the game changers, but since a lot of speakers are floor standing, it's in the medium category. Don't overlook speaker stands though. There's nothing worse than a speaker aimed directly at your knees or over your head. And then the upgrades in this category are the ones I have the most fun playing with, changing out, getting something new. And while none of them are technically better than the other, they're different. And with the ones in this category, I can always hear a difference, a dramatic difference. So in my opinion, this is where you're going to get the biggest benefits from an upgrade. Your speakers. I love speakers. I have a bond with speakers. It would be very hard for me to just have one set. I definitely like some more than others, but I like others for different reasons. If you currently do not like the sound of your system, or you think there's a potential for a better sound, if you are wanting to try and get a better sound, the first place I would look would be the speakers. And even if you currently have really good speakers, it's possible that they're just not right for you, or they're not right for your room. Just because a lot of people love a certain brand or model doesn't mean it's right for you and your room. I love speakers. I love them. I think one of the most overlooked upgrades in the stereo world is your room. And why some people might not enjoy this part of building their system, I actually really enjoy it because I know the amount of improvement having some room treatment in your room, getting your room dialed in. I know how big of a difference that can make. And it's huge. To me, it's way different than upgrading your CD player. And I think room treatments actually come quite a ways. I mean, today we have more options than ever for aesthetically pleasing room treatments. It's not just the old Oralex or egg carton diffusers. And unfortunately with room treatment, there's a lot of confusion about it. A lot of people don't know what they should get, and that's because it's not a one-size-fits-all. Every solution is different to the shape of your room, and for a lot of people, that room is dual purpose. It's not just for listening to audio, and I get it, but I also think that people are fighting their room with upgrades, and unfortunately, they're probably never going to get the sound they're looking for because they can't address the room. And I've got a story coming up about this here in a minute of a guy that really struggled with this, and there wasn't anything he could do about it. And another one is your stylus and cartridge on your turntable. I think a lot of people are under the impression that the turntable is what's generating the sound. And in my opinion, I'd say 90% of it at least is coming from the cartridge and stylus. And we have people come in all the time and they have 40-year-old cartridges and the stylus looks like it's played a ton of records. You are so due for an upgrade. If you're going to get into vinyl, treat yourself. Get a nice cartridge and stylus. That can be a huge upgrade. It's just so important. That's always been a really fun upgrade for me. If you're buying a used turntable or somebody gifts you a vintage turntable and it's still got the original cartridge, or you don't know how many hours that cartridge has been used, do yourself a favor. Get yourself an upgrade. Get yourself a new cart. That's a huge improvement. If you haven't experienced a subwoofer in your 2-channel listening system, I cannot recommend enough that upgrade. And I do recommend it quite a bit at the shop. And a lot of times I hear the same thing. I don't listen to rap. I don't listen to heavy bass music. I don't need a subwoofer. And I think a lot of people have the idea in their head that they're going to sound like one of those cars going down the road where the trunk is rattling. Like the only people that should own a subwoofer are wanting big, huge bass. And that is not what it's about at all. I mean, it can be if that's what you want, but it doesn't have to be. There are a lot of benefits to a powered subwoofer for a lot of reasons, but just really filling out that low end and being able to control the bass, I just don't see myself ever having a stereo system without a subwoofer. Doesn't matter what the speakers are. For me, it is the perfect way to really get the bass where I want it and that extra level of control. Just might be my favorite stereo upgrade available. Okay, so I've got a few bottlenecking stories for you that we've heard over the years. These are the ones that stand out. There's a lot more. If you're enjoying this video, definitely hit the like button, hit the subscribe. You could always unsubscribe later. And if you've had a really disappointing upgrade, put it in the comments. Share your story either so we can laugh with you or we can learn from you. But that's what it's all about. So we had this customer that would come in quite often buying premium records, UHQRs, Mobile Fidelities. The guy had a great collection, a lot of first presses. He was buying the expensive stuff. And one day he came in and he said, I think I need to replace my stylus. Do you carry one of these? And he showed me his phone. And it was an Audio-Technica ATN 3600 off of an LP60. And I am not bagging on this turntable. I think it's one of the best entry-level turntables ever made. But I remember saying to the guy, you just paid $400 for 3 records and you're playing it on a $100 turntable. He was a really good customer at this time. So I said, take this one home and try it. If you don't like it, bring it back. If you like it, pay me later. And the guy couldn't have been happier. What you do with your money and your collection is your business. It doesn't matter to me. But in that case, he just didn't really know. He was enjoying buying records. That was the fun of it for him. He was enjoying collecting. And he just didn't realize that getting a better cartridge on a better turntable was going to make that significant of an improvement. And then another situation where before I opened Skylabs, I used to do custom installs. And I went over to this really nice brand new house. I think we were going to hang some TVs and some sound bars throughout the house. And the guy looks at me and he says, hey, when you get done doing that, do you mind coming down, checking out my stereo system? I actually paid quite a bit of money for it, and I don't think it sounds good at all. And I remember walking down in the basement. It was this huge room, all tile. One side of the room was all glass. There wasn't hardly any furniture in this room, real minimalistic, and he didn't even need to turn the stereo on. The amount of slap back echo in that room was crazy. And I remember saying, hey man, get a rug, get a bigger sofa, get anything in this room is going to help. Anything with soft, non-reflective surfaces. He looked at me and he goes, I can't do it. My wife really likes the room like this. This is the way she wanted it, and my hands are tied. And I didn't have anything to tell him. I mean, he did. He had a nice system. I think it was Macintosh. It sounded horrible. There's nothing he could do. That was a sad story. I told him, you're better off getting headphones. I hate to say it, but you could put the most expensive, the best sounding stereo in that room, and it's never going to sound good. I felt really bad for the guy. I did. Spent a lot of money on something he does not like the sound of, and it's not the stereo's fault. I think it's pretty fair to say if you've never been disappointed with an upgrade, what you thought was an upgrade, then you probably haven't been in the hobby very long. And that's just part of it, unfortunately, because all of our rooms are different. All of our ears are different. Nobody can really tell you what's better for you, what's better for your system than you. I always kind of look at it like I'm getting to experience something different, even if it's not a lifelong piece. Hopefully there's something redeeming with it. Hopefully I like the interaction or I like the way it looks. And there's nothing wrong with that either. You're the one sitting in front of it. You're the one interacting with it. Enjoy it for a while and then try something different. It's just part of it. And we love it. I love it. And if you like this video, you should definitely watch this one.